The Helpdesk service overview is something that we've been doing for quite some time, and I've been fairly closely involved in the process operationally as well as from an administration point of view. So it really joys me to talk about this. It's something that I believe strongly in. I think there's been far too much negative stigma placed on an outsourced help desk in the last, say, 10 to 12 years and whatnot. So I'm very proud to work with the team that we work with here. It's very nice to be able to deal with clients and technicians in a clear, concise manner. As I mentioned before, they're all in Canada. They're all native English speaking, so there isn't going to be any language barriers that would normally exist with an overseas help desk. Essentially, we're also there to help users as well. So we're very economically centric minded when it comes to who we're actually supporting. We realize that a single person can actually have way more than one device that they may have control over. We're dealing with a workstation at work, perhaps a laptop, nowadays mobile devices, tablets, smartphones, things of that nature. Those are items that we actually help the user with, and there isn't any extra debt, any costs associated with those peripherals, if you will, that are attached to those users. All of our technicians are level 2, level 3. You're not going to get a level 1 tech monkey when you call live virtual help desk. You're going to find someone who knows the answer, or if they don't know the answer, they know where to find the answer, and that's essentially who we hire. I have been involved in the hiring process in the past, and we're pretty tough as far as who we're going to let through our doors and who we're going to let help you guys out. Ultimately, our reputation's on the line, and we want to do the best we can to provide the support that you offer to your clients. 85% first call resolution. This is one of those figures that I generally talk about in pre-sales calls to existing clients and whatnot. It's one of those figures that is very easily maintained. It takes a little bit of give and take coming out of the starting gate while we get a little bit more familiar with the infrastructure and whatnot. But it's one that I'm proud to say that we maintain quite readily. It's higher than industry standard, and we do the best to maintain that as aggressively as we can. We're also not set into a box as far as what we can offer when we're dealing with escalation procedures. We are flexible enough to be able to either send an email when we need to escalate something, or is it just a matter of escalating a trouble ticket or setting a status? Do we need to follow someone up with a call? Not only that, we can have several different layers of escalations. If it's during business hours, we can take this path. If it's after business hours, we can take a different path. We also have the judgment ability to determine what type of impact this problem's having, and then make that judgment call on who needs to be contacted in that type of scenario. Again, if it's melded in with our NOC services, it gives us kind of a leg up on that process, because inevitably we have the tools to be able to correct the problem ourselves just by sending a notification to our NOC team, who logs in there and has a look and can usually fix the problem before any damage has been done. We have full support for Windows, Mac, as well as some of the newer tablet-based or mobile phone operating systems like Android, iOS, BlackBerry from RIM. We're getting lots. This stuff is changing all the time. Especially versions of specifically Apple and Android and BlackBerry, the three major markets as far as mobile technology goes. These are changing all the time, and we need to make sure that we're up to date on our knowledge of these updates and the changes and whatnot for these different operating systems, in order to make sure that our technical support can stay up and be up to par. We also have general support for pretty much everything native to the operating systems and platforms that I mentioned before, but we also have and can provide support to line of business applications as well. Line of business applications generally falls into our best effort type of category, but as long as we have a fairly good set of documentation for the actual product, we can deliver a stellar job. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the onboarding process. Essentially, The onboarding process is fairly scalable. It's an electronic process that we use on our side. Depending on the services that you're actually getting through us, the responsibility or what actually needs to get done by whom changes a little bit. So I'll discuss a little bit about that. When we're dealing with help desk services, essentially it's a matter of filling out a couple of web forms. Once those forms are filled out, we proceed to an actual testing phase of the system where we have test all the notification rules and whatnot that we can assist with setting up your RMM tool as well as the PSA to make sure we get notifications and whatnot. On the NOC side, it changes a little bit. There is still that electronic process. However, when dealing with NOC services, what we will do is we will do that device discovery for you. So if we're dealing with Helpdesk, we rely on the MSP to provide us that information. On the NOC side, we can actually go in there once we have access to the system and actually do that NOC discovery. So we will present you with a list of devices and whatnot that we have found as assets on your network, and then essentially it's just a matter of choosing which devices you'd like to have which service applied to. We keep a record of that in our support knowledge base, and then proceed accordingly with the patch setups as well as the actual alerting and whatnot. As I mentioned before, we have a kind of a best practices mode for setting up alerts. Generally speaking, we're not gonna mess with any of the alerts that are there unless we're dealing with an overlapping alert. When that happens, we're gonna talk to you about it. We're gonna discuss it. If we see, say, I'll give an example of a processor alert that goes after, say it alerts after 5 minutes when the processor hits above 90%. If we see something like that that's a little bit more aggressive than, say, a standard alert, we'll want to know about it. We'll talk to the MSP about it and say, hey, is there a reason why this happens? Is the machine consistently running over that, or is it basically to get a little bit better of background and how we can actually make that service work for you. So that tweaking process of the actual alerting setup and whatnot, and the thresholds and frequencies of the alert notifications is truly an art form, and it's a joy watching our guys set up these alerts. It's something that I've never been personally involved with, but it's like clockwork watching these guys set up these types of alerts. It's absolutely wonderful to watch. We also have the ability to deal with help desk issues from an actual VIP list, or what I sometimes like to call the squeaky wheel. They may not be a VIP, but when noise is made, we certainly want to do our best to expedite anything as possible. We do ask for VIPs when signing up, just so that we can be cognizant of their that they exist, and we'll do whatever we can to make that experience a positive one. During the onboarding process as well, usually at the start of the actual testing phase, we will assign a telephone number for you. We can discuss whether or not it's a toll-free number or a toll-based number in your local area. We can provide both. Essentially, the number can be used either directly, where you could give the number to your client and they could contact the help desk directly, or you could program the number into your existing phone system and have an extension forward to that number. Essentially, during the onboarding process, we determine how you're going to be using that number so that we can actually follow suit when we deal with a situation that might require us to contact the user back. If we have to leave a voicemail for a user, we want to give them the correct number to be calling to reach us, and not potentially a number that they've never heard of. So it's good to know during the onboarding process how you're going to be using that number, and the flexibility with that definitely works for most of our clients. As we mentioned a bit before, it's something that I want to stress again. We do integrate with the tools that you're already using. As I said this, many times, you guys have invested time and money into the tools that you're using. Who are we to say that you have to use our tool? We understand the need for using our own system to be able to provide an internal workflow for our own technical team and our NOC services. But we don't hold you to that tool. Essentially, we will be using it regardless, and then depending on whatever tool you're using, we will integrate with that tool to the best of our ability to provide the support the way you would provide it.
But Trevor, who would use anything but Kaseya?
Well, you raise a very good point, and I have to say Kaseya is probably one of my favorite ones, just because it's been around the longest, and it's the one that I still know how to administer.
There you go. So that's good. All right. Well, we know that.
Generally speaking, we're vendor agnostic, but I have to agree with you though, Dan. My first involvement into this arena was Kaseya all the way, and that's the way we were. I look at some of the other products and whatnot, and I feel kind of bad coming from a technical background and thinking I need to be a rocket scientist to figure this out.
Yeah. Nah, I know they all have their strengths and weaknesses, but we love Kaseya. They're our friends.
It's a good tool, and we can assist with the setup. We can also assist with the agent deployment if necessary, and with scripting and whatnot. And our friends at Virtual Administrator help us out when we need them as a resource for that as well. Usually it's Dan, I forget how to do this. Point me in the right direction. That being said. Because we do actually have an HQ system that we use internally, there is a module built into it that will allow you to use it if needed. So worst case scenario, if you don't have an actual PSA or haven't taken the jump yet to a system like that, we can certainly offer HQ usage for yourselves and your clients. So definitely there are some flexible items there. Essentially we want to provide the support the way you provide it, and whichever tool makes that happen, that's what we work with. Our workflow is definitely closed loop. We want to make sure that we start the issue, we finish the issue. If for something happens that we need to escalate the issue for it, we expect to be alerted back if it's something that we actually can fix. This is fairly common in the beginning stages of a relationship where we don't know the infrastructure all that well. We're very much a teach us how to fish organization. We're going to escalate stuff to you, but we're going to ask for items and whatnot and access and information within the trouble ticket. It's never done in a spirit of, okay, we can't do this, here you go. It's always done in the spirit of, hey, if you give us just a bit of information, fire the ticket back to me, we'll continue on down the line. And that's something that we've developed and maintained with both our NOC and our help desk services. We're any information that we receive, even in the form of a trouble ticket, update notification and whatnot, we will use that to populate our knowledge base on both sides, the NOC side as well as the help desk side. Ultimately, our goal is to not have that issue happen again. If it does happen again, we want to be able to avoid the escalation process by correcting that ourselves and keeping that closed loop methodology. We also do provide vendor coordination with that, and it's something I get asked about quite a lot. Essentially, if we have the vendor information list and we determine that there is a problem with something that a vendor is providing, we can actually make that initial step to contact the vendor on behalf of the MSP, the VAR, or the end user client to start the process and enter a trouble ticket. And then at that point, it's up to the MSP if they would like us to completely take it over or just escalate the issue directly to them. So we can work in both avenues. An example of that might be, let's say an office subscribes to Verizon DSL and the Verizon goes down. If we have access to the Verizon information in the contract, we would be more than happy to contact Verizon on your behalf to let them know that there's an issue at this specific address and then proceed accordingly. And that's a definite value add that not many help desk providers offer nowadays. As I mentioned before with our integration, regardless of how of the system we're actually using, you will always see a copy of the work that we've done in some form of time entry into the trouble ticket system you're using. Whether you're using Autotask, whether you're using ConnectWise, we are going to make sure that everything that we do is documented fully within your system. Therefore, maintaining any type of reporting or logging utilities that you currently provided to your clients already. Because we're still using those tools as your employees, none of that is actually hampered as far as your reporting goes. So you'll still be able to provide that all for your clients. We've spoken about the escalation procedures already. I'll just recap very quickly. We're flexible in not only who we can escalate or the type of escalations we do, we also have flexibility over different times of day, different impacts or severity levels. Essentially, we're pretty flexible as far as the whole escalation process goes. Ultimately, we need to know who to contact, under what circumstances, and how to contact them. We get that, and we get that, and then we'll work with that.